Welcome to the Healing While Discovering Yourself podcast. I'm your host, Andrea Michelle. I'm an intuitive transformational coach, certified life coach, certified NLP practitioner, and speaker. I've spent the last 22 plus years helping myself and my clients learn how to create their own happiness and live more abundant lives. In this time, I've also overcome and healed from child sexual molestation, a compulsive eating disorder, hunger, and homelessness. Now it's your turn to move forward with your life and heal from childhood traumas or past experiences. In this podcast, I'll share how I was able to overcome all of my past struggles, as well as my personal stories of overcoming jealousy, loneliness, resentment, and bitterness, and how I learned to forgive. I'll also help you explore your shadow self, deal with having low or no self-esteem, and address feelings of not being worthy or loved. Using my personal experiences and extensive training, as well as stories of grief, loss, depression, and anxiety from my guests, I'll help you change your life and finally heal. Hey loves, welcome to episode 2 of the Healing While Discovering Yourself podcast. If this is your second time listening, because this is the second episode, welcome back. If this is your first time listening, then I want to welcome you to this amazing, at least I think it's amazing, podcast where we will discuss all of the things that you need to either begin or continue on your own healing journey. Today's topic that we're going to discuss I feel is vitally important, especially as you begin your own journey of self-discovery. And it's called self-discovery for a reason. That means that you'll get to spend a lot of time with yourself, working on yourself by yourself. And anytime that happens, for a lot of people, it causes them to feel selfish, if you will. So if I had to give today's episode a title, it would be called Self-Care Prevents Selfishness, right? Self-care prevents you from being selfish. And I know y'all are probably like, what? And how does that make sense? Well, if you give me a minute, I will explain, y'all. No, I'm just kidding. You know, as we continue on with this episode, I really want you to think about this. You cannot pour from an empty cup, right? It doesn't matter how much you may want to give someone a drink of water, right? If you have no water in your cup, then your desire to give means absolutely nothing. So I really want you to take that. You can't pour from an empty cup, and really cement that in your head, but then also cement that in your heart and understand that this goes across the board for everyone and everything in your life. If you're dealing with, let's say, a child, and you love your child very dearly, and this child comes to you and it says, Mom, I need $3 for lunch, right? Let's use a very simple example. And you honestly do not have $3 to give your kid. It doesn't matter if that kid is crying. It doesn't matter if the kid is sobbing. It doesn't matter if it's life or death. Now, most of you would argue and say, well, if it's life or death, then I would do everything that I can to come up with the $3. And that is true. Most of us will. But you still had to put some effort, right, into giving that child the $3. Even if you do everything that you possibly can, you first have to go out and get the $3 and own the $3 in order to give the $3, right? So you cannot give what you do not have. And for those of us, remember back in the day when we used to be able to just like fly freely when like travel was like a part of our everyday life. And I know some of us are still traveling, even, throughout COVID and, with the mask and all of that. But remember when it was like you could just book a ticket and fly and, there were no issues. You didn't have to worry about tests and all of that. But anyway, I don't want to talk about that. But what is the one thing that they always said? The flight attendants always said, put your oxygen mask on first before helping someone else. Because if you faint and fall out due to a lack of oxygen, then clearly you are no good for anyone else. And so that is why it is important for you to put your self-care routine, ritual, whatever you want to call it, above all else. So here's what I have learned on the journey of self-discovery and this journey of healing. If you don't care for yourself enough, you become bitter, you become resentful, you become easily agitated because you have not put your needs above the needs of other people. And then any act that you perform as a result of trying to be superwoman, trying to be superman, trying to make everybody like you, trying to people please, guess what? The energy that you put out there will be disingenuous. And you know what you're going to get in return for doing something for someone when you're bitter, resentful, agitated, angry, frustrated? You're going to get that same energy back to you. And that's why a lot of times people feel like I do this for everybody. When they call me, they need me, blah, blah, blah. I'm always there for them. But then when it's my turn, no one is there for me. Well, people match energy with energy, right? There's duality, there's polarity, opposites attract, right? So whatever energy it is that you're putting out there, that's going to be returned to you. So that's why it is vitally important for you to stop and understand what your needs are. It is vitally important for you to take a step back and understand, number one, get to know who you are. Because if you don't know who you are, then you're not going to know what it is that you want. And if you don't know what it is that you want, then you're not going to know what it is that you need. You're not going to know because you don't fundamentally know who you are. But when you stop and you take the time to discover who you are, looking into those parts of you that you've never explored, and sitting with yourself, going back to perhaps an inner child memory, or taking the time to understand or get to know parts of your shadow self. It is not until you begin to do that work that true healing begins to take place. Now, I want to make this clear. I'm not saying that healing happens after, you've taken the time to explore all of your inner child memories, or healing happens after you've explored every part of your shadow. What I am saying, though, is that in order for the healing process to begin, you have to at least sit down, take the time to find out what your needs are. And once you've discovered what your needs are, then act upon it. And that is when the true healing process begins. And over time, when you pour into yourself, you continuously pour into yourself. Before you know it, you'll wake up one morning and you will find out that you have healed from the situation because you've done the things that are necessary for you to do. You know, a lot of people think about self-care in terms of, getting massages and manicures and pedicures and treating yourself to nice dinner. While I think that all of that is great and all of that is important and all of that is a part of self-care, and I think it should be incorporated in your daily living, it doesn't cost you anything from a monetary perspective, from a financial perspective, because it could potentially, cost you relationships. It could potentially cost you, instead of doing one thing, you're doing something else. But what I'm talking about, the things that I'm talking about is spending time alone. That is a function of self-care. Having me time, even if it's just you sitting silently by yourself for 5 minutes in the morning, that is self-care because you're getting in touch with who you are. That's self-care because you're discovering more about you. And even if you aren't actively discovering, in a sense where you're asking questions, what does this mean? What does that mean? The mere fact that you have cared enough about yourself to sit silently, undistracted for 5 minutes is pure, unadulterated self-care. And it doesn't cost you anything financially. It may cost you 5 minutes of sleep because if your children or your spouse gets up at 7:00, and when they get up, they're loud all through the house, then it may mean that you have to get up 5-10 minutes early so that you can have that quiet space, right? So it'll cost you sleep, but not that much, right? And I promise you, over time, the benefits of spending even 5 minutes alone are exponential. That 5 minutes alone every morning will more than make up for the 5 minutes of sleep that you think that you're missing. And over time, that 5 minutes will turn into 6 minutes, will turn into 7 minutes, will turn into 8 minutes. And before you know it, you have now made a complete routine or ritual out of getting up early and spending time with yourself. Because in that quiet time, in the moments of silence, that's when you can hear spirit. That's when you can hear God. That's when you can hear all of the other voices in your head, even the unhelpful voices that you've been listening to. And then once you're able to identify those voices, you can then silence those voices, right? And only listen to the voices that serve you. So self-care is spending 5 minutes alone to start out with, and then see where it goes from there. Self-care is also actually, instead of taking a shower, it's taking a bath. Now, I know a lot of people today don't have like bathtubs in their houses, because I know when we built our house, we didn't put a bathtub in our master bathroom. We just did like a stand-in glass shower, which is great for us. But we have a total of 4 bathrooms in the house, 2 of them with tubs. So it wasn't a big deal. But I do know that a lot of people are opting to like not get a bathtub because, not many people take them. But soaking your body in the water, oh my gosh. It is such a great feeling because our bodies are predominantly water. And I don't know if you know this, but everything is energy, right? And everything has a vibration. And water has some of the best vibrations that we could ever wish to have in our experience or have in our orbit. And so just simply sitting in the water and just letting everything go and knowing that this is a cleansing process for you, right? Like you're cleaning your physical body, but you can also at the same time of cleansing your physical body, you can cleanse your mental body, right? You can cleanse your emotional body, and you can let go of the things that no longer serve you. Self-care is also walking outside in nature. Just simply walking outside in nature. And listen, I live in Wisconsin and we have some really cold winters. Like it can get down. I think last winter it got down to like minus 50 degrees. Like it can get really cold here. And on those days, I'm not saying go outside. But what I'm saying is going outside and walking in nature. There's something very grounding about being out there in nature. And not only that, but when you're outside, it really helps you to, well, at least for me and some of my clients and my friends who also do the same thing, is that it really helps you to put things in perspective. You know, to be outside and look up at the sky and just think, like, how high is the sky, right? And on the days when it's kind of cloudy and you're like, I know that the sun is there, but it's just like the clouds are covering the sun, but the sun is always there, opening up the idea, the possibility that everything you need is always there. Sometimes the clouds come and they cover it up and it creates a shadow, right? But at the end of the day, it is always there. So walking outside in nature, admiring the trees, right? The grass, because that's life. It represents life. That's self-care. And it helps you put things into a perspective that's simply sitting inside of your four walls, a perspective that sitting in the four walls just can't give you. That's self-care, right? Having some sort of meditation practice. Burning candles, burning sage, using anointing oil, right? Having a sound bowl. These are all forms of self-care, but these are forms of self-care that it costs you nothing or costs you very little compared to what you're going to receive, your return on investment. And what you will learn over time is that the more you take care of yourself, the more you will be able to do for people. And the beauty is that your doing will come from a place of love. And it will come from a place of unadulterated yes, and not the obligatory yes. And when you do things for people, there will be no resentment. There will be no frustration. There will be no anger. There will be no bitterness. And what you receive from them in return will be the love. It will be the joy. It will be the gratitude. It will be the appreciation, because whatever it is that you've done for them, you've done it in that same energy. So I would love for you to just really sit back and think about the idea that self-care prevents you from being selfish. And anytime you're doing something for someone and you feel selfish or you feel selfishness coming up, then I need for you to understand that the reason why you feel selfish is because you haven't been spending enough time with yourself. And that selfishness is brought on by guilt and shame, right? So the next time you do something for someone else, I want you to ask yourself, Have I done this for myself? If I say yes, is my yes coming from a genuine, authentic place of yes, I want to do this for them because I've also or already done it for myself? If you can't say, yes, I'm doing this because I've already done it for myself, or yes, because I genuinely want to, not because they're my mother or my father, or because no one else will do it. If it's not a yes because I want to, then I'm going to ask you to say no. It may feel awkward at first. It may feel selfish at first, but I promise you, if you put yourself first, if you fill your cup first, then when someone comes and asks you for a sip of water, it will be no sweat off your back to give it to them. And you won't feel like, oh my gosh, I'm giving them my last, because your cup is full. And you know that whatever it is that you give them, that there's plenty where that came from, that you got a cup full of stuff, right? But if all you have is a drip left and someone comes to you and they tell you, I'm thirsty, right? Self-preservation, you're going to be like, oh, I only have a drip. Like literally, that's all I got. Then you may feel selfish because you've allowed yourself to be depleted. And whatever the little bit that you have left, you need to preserve that for yourself. So yes, I understand. Now, do you understand why self-care like prevents you from being selfish? If you had a cup full and someone asked you for a drip, sure, no problem. But if all you have is a drip and someone asks you for a drip, then to preserve yourself, you're going to say no, or you're going to say yes and give it to them. And then once they drink it, you're going to be like, now I ain't got nothing. I gave it to them. They have it all, right? And you're going to be resentful and bitter, and that doesn't help anybody. So consider that as you go on this journey of self-discovery, consider putting yourself first, because I promise you that is the only way that you are going to be able to truly heal. Because a healing journey, it takes time and it takes work. And if you're not willing to invest that time in yourself, then it's going to take you a very long time to heal, if you get to that place of being healed at all. All right. So I really hope this helps you out. I hope this really, changes your perspective. And again, I get that we're conditioned to believe that if we put ourselves first, then it's selfish, especially those of you who are women. I know there are also some men out there who are listening who are probably like, yeah. But, we've been conditioned to believe that if we put ourselves first, then we're being selfish. But again, remember, you can't pour from an empty cup, and you have to put your oxygen mask on first in order to even begin to save someone else. Because if you pass out, you ain't saving nobody. That is for sure, right? So thank y'all so much for listening. If you have enjoyed this episode or the first episode or any episode of this podcast, I'm going to ask you to please share this podcast. Please share this episode with someone that you know who can benefit from the content. And I would love for you to, rate it and review it and share it on your Instagram stories, your Facebook stories, or wherever you hang out. I would love for you to share this. But remember, self-care prevents you from being selfish. All right. Love y'all. Hey loves, are you looking for a safe place to hang out while you're healing with other like-minded individuals? If so, then I would love for you to join my private Facebook community called Healing While Discovering Yourself. named after the podcast. This community is for those who are truly seeking a safe place to heal and also show up authentically. If this interests you, then I'm going to invite you to go to Facebook/groups/healing while discovering. I look forward to seeing you in the group. Tony Robbins said, "The quality of your life is a direct reflection of the quality of the questions you're asking yourself." And that's why I'm inviting you to download my free guide called 5 Powerful Questions to Ask Yourself to help you take back control of your life. In this guide, you will learn how to shift your mood, break negative thought patterns, and identify beliefs and stories so that you can explore the truthfulness of these stories. Go to andreamichelle.com/powerful to download this free guide today.